Today is April Fool's Day, and unfortunately we'd like to say that a lot of the pay increases that you're seeing in your bills are a bit of an April Fool, but they're not. This is being dubbed Awful April. 7 bills and tax changes are due to go up from today.
Yes, water, energy, council tax, car tax, broadband, stamp duty, business rates all go up today.
GB News political reporter Catherine Forster on this one. It all comes at once, Catherine.
Yes, it does. Good morning. Well, the weather is getting better. That's one little bit of bright news because we'll hopefully not have to put our heating on. But average energy bills are set to go up about £100 a year. Council tax in England up 5% a year. Stamp duty going to be more expensive if you're buying a house. Business rates, broadband bills, the list goes on and on. Car tax, another one. And also those tax threshold freezes that were started by the last government. It's a stealth tax. Basically, it drags more and more people into higher tax brackets. So a lot of people are going to find that their money goes less far this month than it did last month. And that cost of living crisis just seems to go on and on and on. Citizens Advice today warning that millions of the lowest paid will be already stretched to breaking point. Now, the government are keen to tout their changes to the national living wage. If you're at the bottom, you're likely to be earning more because the national living wage going up 6.7%, so considerably above inflation, to £12.21. If you're an apprenticeship, an apprentice, that will be going up too. So some good news for people at the very bottom in terms of pay going up, but a whole lot of bad news, I'm afraid, in this April going forward.
And Catherine, what about that promise from the Chancellor last week that households on average would be £500 or more better off?
Yes, I must admit I was mystified by that when I heard it, and I also looked through the whole OBR breakdown of the spring statement in which it said that household disposable income would only go up by like 0.5% a year. I asked the Prime Minister's official spokesman about that number, and he said that that £500 per year is per person, and it is in real terms adjusted for inflation, but it is not until the very end of the Parliament. So some 4 years from that, building up to that, presumably. But, you know, given the increases in costs, some running to, you know, £100 or £200 a year more for people kicking in right now, I don't think many people are going to be feeling better off at the moment.
Forgive me for not understanding that, Catherine. Does the 500 come in one go at the end of the parliamentary session, or is it, £100 this year, £100 the next year, whatever? What way does the money actually split?
Well, I haven't got the breakdown for the years leading up to it, but they told me that it will be £500 a year better off individuals will be by 2029. But I haven't got the figures for how much better off we'll be this year, next year. I will try to get those for you because I've not been able to find that number anywhere in black and white. So,
okay.
It's a headline figure, but it's a bit more murky below that.
Understand, Catherine. Thank you very much indeed. Catherine Foster in London. We go to Sophie Reaper now. Sophie joins us from Hartlepool to bring us more on what is going on. Morning, Sophie.
Morning to you both. Well, as I said just a few short moments ago, it might well be April Fool's Day today, but people here in Hartlepool, I'm sure across the rest of the UK, certainly are not laughing. We are going to see hikes across the board. People are going to see a rise in their energy bills, in their water bills. There'll be rises in council tax, in car tax, even things like broadband, mobile phone contracts. Even the cost of the stamp is set to go up in this month that is now being dubbed as Awful April. So we're going to be here in Hartlepool all day today finding out how businesses, how real people are going to be affected by these changes. But joining me now here in 188 is the MP for the local area, Jonathan Brash. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I've just realised we're in 177, not 188. Thank you for not correcting me. I can just see it in the window over there. Jonathan, talk to me about Hartlepool, first of all. This is an area which previously has seen quite a bit of deprivation. How are your constituents going to cope with these hikes across the board?
Well, I think nobody's pretending that times aren't tough, but I think we've got to be balanced about this. There are also 5,000 Hartlepool people today getting a pay rise through the national minimum wage. We've seen pay rises for our teachers, for our nurses, for our armed forces, the biggest pay rise for our armed forces in 22 years. Those are important steps. And look, you know, it's boom time in Hartlepool. We're seeing £150 million of capital investment, £20 million for our neighbourhoods. Just yesterday, £6 million for our flood defences right here in Hartlepool. Now, investment is coming to Hartlepool. The good times are genuinely round the corner. We've got to keep pushing on and be positive about this brilliant town and the changes that we're making.
But even so, many households are going to be feeling the pinch, aren't they? We're talking increase in water, increase in energy across the board. And if you take just one of those bills that was going to increase, you might think it's not so bad. But when you look at it holistically, there are going to be people watching today, not just here in this constituency, but all over the UK, who are going to be panicking. What do you say to them about how they're going to cope day to day?
Well, I think there is support available for people, particularly around energy costs. The household support fund's been extended. And, you know, you mentioned council tax in your introduction. I think council tax is a completely regressive and unfair tax that hammers towns like Hartlepool, which is why I'm campaigning to get it abolished. It's completely unfair that people in Hartlepool are paying thousands of pounds more than people down south in London. That is a completely unfair tax. And you are right, we have to get that sorted, which is why I'm leading the charge to get it abolished.
We've, of course, had the spring statement with the Chancellor last week. A lot of people saying they were unhappy with that. In fact, almost as many unhappy with that as they were with Liz Truss's mini-budget. What did you make of it? Do you think that that budget was for the people? She said that Labour was the party of work. Did you agree with that?
Well, look, part of the package of measures that we're putting together is to get people back to work. And I think work is good for people. I think that's really important. And, you know, part of the package last week announced huge increases in defence spending. I visited a company here in Hartlepool, a leading defence and aerospace company right here in Hartlepool, that's expanding what it's doing, that's taking people on, that's expanding its premises because of the investment that's going into the economy around defence. So there are some big positives. Yes, look, I know you'll talk to people today. Some people, a minority of people like to talk Hartlepool down. I don't. We're a fantastic place. We're talking up. We're growing our economy. We're investing millions. And, you know, I'm working on a deal right now for new nuclear investment in Hartlepool. That's not millions. That's billions of investment in our town. So we are being positive. We are trying to grow Hartlepool and its economy for the benefit of working people.
Jonathan Brash, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's good to hear that there are some positives to be taken away in this awful April, as it's being named. But I think, as Jonathan rightly said there, we are going to be speaking to local people today who will share the general consensus of the UK that all of these bills rising is going to bring a lot of concern with it.
Yeah, and the cost of living crisis far from over. Sophie Reaper, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much.